Brace yourself because we're about to discover whether Dollywood's Tasting Pass is a holiday miracle or just a very expensive cookie run. Welcome to Bear Facts, where we explore the Smoky Mountains one bear fact at a time. In this video, we're diving fork first into everything you need to know before committing your taste buds and your wallet to Dollywood's Tasting Pass. We'll cover what it is, how it works, what it costs, and take a look at some of the foods you might see during the Smoky Mountain Christmas 2025 season. But whether the food is actually good enough to justify the hype, and most importantly, if it's worth your hard-earned money, it's going to be up to you whether you make that final decision. But we're here to help you, and we did all the research and all the hard work for you. So let's put our best spoon forward and head on down to Dollywood. Dollywood, for the uninitiated, is Dolly Parton's sparkling kingdom of thrills, music, nostalgic trains, delicious bread fumes, and all Southern charm tucked away in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. It's famous for its roller coasters, shows, craftsmanship, and the holiday displays that are so bright that if Santa ever lost Rudolph, he could just simply use Dollywood alone to get around. Now, unfortunately, as we have become season pass members over the years, we've also observed that pricing at Dollywood has continuously gone up. When we first started going here less than 5 years ago, I don't even think we paid like maybe $70, $75. It wasn't very expensive. But this year, when we went there, it was $110 a person. So passes to get into Dollywood are a commitment, a financial one, and your entire day, because that's how long it'll take to enjoy the park fully. And with all of these rising parks prices, food prices, and drink prices, many guests are seeking ways to make their dollar stretch and still be able to enjoy the park and what it has to offer. And one way that Dollywood offers is through the tasting passes. And many guests find that this is actually a very good value, but then some people do the math and they think, is it really that good of a value? So we're going to delve right into it and tell you what we learned when we were there just this last season. The Dollywood Tasting Pass is basically a prepaid card that will give you a way to enjoy the park without the hassle of dealing with money and stuff like that. They have it for all of their major seasonal events. The first one is in early spring during the I Will Always Love You event, which they start with a different tasting dish for each one of these events. This one is followed by the Flower and Food Festival in late spring. In the summer is the Summer Celebration. And then in the fall is the Harvest Festival. The very last one, and probably the biggest grand one of all, is the Smoky Mountain Christmas. Now, each of these festivals has their own curated menu of limited time treats. Spring might hand you a floral-inspired one or decorations that are floral-inspired. Fall, obviously, you're going to see a lot more pumpkin spice and everything nice. Summer is kind of a little bit more of a carnival energy. And then, obviously, Christmas, you're going to break out the cookies, cocoa, and a lot of sugar with mint in it. So before you get too excited, know this, there are some limitations with the passes, which we're going to cover. One of the biggest and probably most disappointing ones, so don't take it personally, is the cinnamon bread loaves are not included. I know, everyone's like, oh no, that's so sad. But they do include a lot of different unique items on the pass. So even though the bread and some of the other items like your basic hot dogs and pizzas, they're not usually included, you will still find some really fun and unique items to enjoy. All right, so let's get started with the basics. First of all, you can pick up your pass usually at any of the kiosks that sell the food itself. So if you see these signs somewhere, you can buy the pass there. The passes usually cost about $50, and that's after the hefty 10% tax that Tennessee tries to get out of every tourist that's coming through. But what makes this pass worth considering is that instead of using a card or cash or a phone and doing that whole snack juggle performance every time you want to try something, they give you this pass card with a lanyard and you just put it around your neck and then you walk around, and anytime you go to one of the places where you want to try one of the foods that they have on display, then you just hold up the pass and then they scan it for you. And some digital mastermind in the background is keeping track of all the snack credits that you have. Now, each person is given 5 snack credits. And that's where you kind of have to start thinking about the math and kind of like thinking about how you're going to go about this. What is the best strategy to make the most out of your money? And we'll get into that right now. Now, obviously, Dollywood is a business. They wouldn't be giving you this discount card unless they thought they were going to make money off of them. And it's kind of clear how they do it. I'd say more than half of the items are under $10. So if you've done the math already, you spend $50 on this pass, you need to average at least $10 an item. It could be any order you want to do it in. It could be a $7 cupcake and a $15 savory drink and it averages over $10. You're doing well. But the thing is more than half of the items in the park are less than $10. So you might see cookies, the cupcakes, all of the drinks, all of them are below $10. And this is where Dollywood will try to get you. They're going to try to encourage you to spend your money in the least efficient way. Well, if you're watching my channel, then you are already wizened up because now you know not to fall for that little trap. Most of the locations of the tasting booths are actually on the lower level of the park. When you enter Dollywood, you'll turn right past the Palace Theater and you will practically trip over the first place that you would probably find the majority of a lot of these snacks. It's in the bakery. Many of the stations have a variety of items. There are some drinks, some savory items, and of course the sweets. And you can actually make a meal out of your pass if you wanted to. I'm going to sum up basically what you'll find at the different stations around the park. So first thing first, let's go over the sugary treats that are in the liquid form. So Dollywood's holiday drinks range from frosty sugar rushes to steaming mugs of "My toes are finally warm again," because it does get cold here. You've got the Christmas punch, and then there's the holiday cranberry, and of course there are hot chocolate choices. Now, if you're looking for a drink to have with your food, this might work for you, but the drinks are very inexpensive. So you're not going to get your value for your money. We didn't try any of them, so I don't have any footage of them, but some of them did look pretty tasty. Now, if you don't want to waste your credits on these inexpensive sweet treats, I would consider getting a mug. If you have a small family, you might even be able to just get one that's a refillable and just use it throughout the whole day. Get some cups, fill each other's up. No one's going to say anything to you. There are refill stations throughout the entire park. They even are experimenting with a freestyle machine. One of the biggest issues we've run into with every one of these machines is the ice does seem to run out fast, especially when you're at the peak seasons and the crowds are higher. So just an FYI on that one. All right, we're going to head over to the next category where you're actually going to get the best value for your credits and your money. And that's our savory category. The savory is an area we used ourselves mostly because we noticed the prices on these items were a little bit more for out of pocket. And these foods usually average between $10 and $15, making it worth considering. The savory lineup reads like Dollywood asked, "What if comfort food joined the Christmas parade?" and then went all out. You've got hearty stuffed potatoes loaded with buffalo chicken or creamy mushroom goodness, chicken casserole, jambalaya. We tried the pork belly skillets with the thick cuts of candied pork mixed in with vegetables. We also got the stuffing stackers, roasted pulled turkey, cornbread dressing, and buttery mashed potatoes topped with gravy. You might want to ask for a little extra gravy on that one if you wanted to, and accompanied by the house-made cranberry sauce. They have a variety of vegetarian dishes as well. One item on the savory list that confused me was the kettle corn. Maybe they figured that there was so many sweets they just had to put it here instead. Either way, most of these items you will find are all grouped just past the bakery, and they're pretty clustered together. Overall, these savory offerings are hearty, flavorful, and wonderfully capable of distracting you from the fact that the cinnamon bread is not included in your tasting pass. Still trying to get over that. And I'm not going to get over it because the next place we're going to go is the place that sells it. Yes, we're going to now start talking about the sweet treats. Now, this last category is where you might have to do the most math or just basically decide, do I spend more on something that looks like it'll make me happy, or do I pass on by and hold on to my resolve to get the best value for my money? This category is the sweets. Dollywood's desserts list are basically Santa's personal bakery exploded across the park. And you've got everything from Christmas cookies in every festive shape you can think of, gingerbread people smiling innocently as you chop off their arms and legs and munch on, cupcakes flavored like hot chocolate and peppermint. These items are all delicious and are also not very expensive, which is great if you're paying out of pocket because it's not actually that bad of a cost. However, if you are using your credits, these items usually average only about $6. Now, your kids won't care and will waste their credits left and right, but you're smarter than that, so you're probably not going to do it. Although those things are very tempting, so I don't know, maybe you might just slip up a little bit and still grab one. Anyway, if you do want to make the most of your credits, consider the funnel cakes. Or the ice creams, or the apple fritters. I'll be honest and say the apple fritters were absolutely my favorite treat in the entire place. They had real chunks of apple in every bite, and they used that frosting that they use on the bread. So it's like you're almost getting the bread, but you're not getting it. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. Let the bread go. So we tried the brownie mint chocolate brownie sundae, which was drizzled with thick fudge and mint chocolate brownies, and the sundae just threatens to ruin your self-control. I was also tempted by the sugar knots, but ended up going with the funnel cake, which was also pretty good. Though be warned, the colder and later in the evening it gets, the longer the lines get. It really took us a long time to get our funnel cakes by the time we ended up, ordering them. So if you see the line short, get there first because that one gets bad in the evening. Now let's talk pros and cons, or as I like to call them, ways this pass will delight you or ways this pass will make you reconsider your financial intelligence. Though you might be thinking that during your entire trip to the Smoky Mountains during the holidays, costs are super high and crowds are crazy, lines get very bad, and your wallet will shrink by the second. But you will enjoy it as you're having your sugary drink. All right, we're going to start with the pros. So the baseline truth is that you actually can save a little cash if you choose wisely. So you can save money using the system. It is also beneficial because you don't have to keep pulling out your wallet every time you want to try something. And another really great thing is if you have young ones and they want some independence. So you give them their passes with their 5 treats on there and you say, hey, this is your budget. You could do what you want with it, make your own decisions, and I don't have to do anything. Once it's up and done, you're done. And it kind of actually makes it a little bit more fun for the kids because they're going to be more cautious with what they choose because now they know there's a limit. And that's actually really good, I've seen with kids. Another thing is you actually get to keep your lanyard and pass. You now have a souvenir to remember these 5 treats from. That and the 5 pounds you took on from eating them. And though there are serious advantages, as we said, to purchasing the pass, whipping it out at the cashier to pay, or being able to strut around with the exclusive all-access tasting pass and feeling like a VIP, as you're covered with sugary frosting on your nose and greasy lips. I mean, who wouldn't want that feeling? In all seriousness, I would proceed with caution. If you are tempted by the most amazing treat ever and the way they display it is very hard to ignore those impulsive desires to just pick it up and eat it, I would just think about it before you get a pass, because if you're going to be like me and go for the treats that are the cheap ones, you're wasting your money. And even though Dolly Parton would absolutely love it if you wasted your credits as much as you wanted to, she'll admit she probably doesn't need that extra dollar that you are giving her, but she'll take it. Anyway, drinks and cookies are going to be your biggest offenders. They're cute, they're tempting, and they will drain your tasting value faster than a toddler running towards a puddle. And speaking of toddlers, one thing I would suggest if you have young kids or toddlers, or just for yourself, bring baggies. I'm not kidding. Bring baggies, because if you do decide to do the tasting thing and you wanted to try some different items, put them in the baggies, because the park gives you like trays and that's it. You can't store them and walk around with them. So if you bring to-go packages, baggies, things like that, you or your toddlers can take a bite and you can put it back in the baggie and then eat it later at the hotel. So it does make it better if you do that. Finally, this is another thing that I kind of was a little surprised about, was how strict the park is about substitutions. When we went to the ice cream stand, my husband said, well, can I have vanilla ice cream instead of mint? And they said, no, we can't change the flavor. Now I understand why they did that. They want to make sure that the lines flow. They want to say, okay, this is what you get, we're going to move on. And it's probably an ordering issue as well. If people are changing their orders left and right and they didn't order enough vanilla versus the mint, I'm sure there's a whole lot of reasons. But either way, just be aware that for the most part, unless the park is absolutely dead, they're not making any substitutions or changes to that meal. So you can ask and be nice about it, but don't expect it. They're pretty firm about it. All right, and this is the last thing. Once you've paid for the tasting pass, you're going to feel pressured to use it all. And that makes sense. You've paid for it. And then you're going to obsess over how much each item is worth and if you're getting your values worth. So you might have walked through the park and bought 10 cupcakes out of pocket on your own because that was what you really wanted, and you didn't end up getting it because you were so worried about getting your money's worth. So the pass can definitely have that disadvantage. And also, it doesn't come with a lot of the foods in the park. So like their famous cinnamon bread, I know I said I would let it go, but I just had to bring that up one more time. They also do not allow you to use it for like a lot of the more savory things, the hot dogs, pizzas, and more filling treats as well. And that might be where your little ones are going to end up not getting their values worth, because a lot of the savory foods are not things that little kids would probably like as much. So is the Dollywood Tasting Pass worth it? Honestly, it depends. If you love sampling new foods, if you enjoy the festival-themed tasting menus, if you're strategic enough to pick the pricier items, then yeah, it's fun and it's a flavorful adventure and you're not having to worry about money. You've budgeted in, everything is set and ready to go. And again, if you have kids and they want to have their own items to pick and choose from, they have full control over their own pass, which is great. It allows them to have a little bit more independence and they'll enjoy it more. But if you're a little bit more picky of an eater, or you just wanted the cinnamon bread, because that thing has to have at least 2,000 calories in it, in a whole meal in its own, your money may go further by buying things a la carte. The key is going to be planning, and some people absolutely hate having to plan for the vacation. They want spontaneity. If you want to be able to make the most out of the tasting pass, you got to go ahead online, look ahead, figure out where these items are that you're going to want, try to figure out pricing, and just do your research. Otherwise, your tasting pass turns into a financial tragedy. You're wasting money. In the end, the Dollywood Tasting Pass is a simple concept: prepay, scan, snack, and repeat. If you follow the unwritten rule, never settle for an item under $10, you'll walk away feeling satisfied. On top of that, if you're with a larger group of people, you can all kind of get a whole bunch of different snacks and try them out so you can make a big sampling party out of it. Either way, you can make this pass work, but personally, I won't be doing it again. I didn't think it was worth my personal value in money. I felt like most of the items were cheap and they didn't meet up with that $15 or $10 above value. Yes, you can do it. The only reason I would get this pass again is if I didn't want to worry about money and I just didn't want to have to even think about it. Got my pass, I'll just walk around. I don't have a credit card, I don't have cash, just go with it. And that would be the only reason I would do it again. However, that doesn't mean you shouldn't consider it, because everyone has different needs and expectations and different things they want from an experience at Dollywood. I hope this video helps you plan your visit to the Smoky Mountains. You're getting an honest review from our personal experiences, but facts and things change, so please keep us in the loop if you learn anything new and want to share your tasting experiences in the comments. Thanks again for visiting us at Bear Facts of the Smoky Mountains. Please click that like button and subscribe to our channel.